by the refugees and asylum seekers themselves due to the surge of COVID-19, especially in Port Moresby. Again, we are sort of not always have the benefit to verify the statistics of how many have become positive or tested positive for COVID-19 unless they decided to inform us individually. We are also conscious about the confidentiality of such matters, and those authorities who are responsible may not be willingly present those information to us. But from our engagement and observation with the individuals, the numbers of positive may have been gone past 10 already, towards 15. We have not become aware of anyone who has been admitted or in serious or critical condition because of this due to the virus yet. But I think, but we are aware that those who have become positive or have tested to be positive, it's adding a lot of stress onto them already, added stress on the already dilapidated mental health, well-being and welfare issues, a lot of worry and concerns about what's going to happen to them. Or let me get, I see there's a comment. Again, how many refugees and how many non-refugees there in Port Moresby? So how many in prison for criminal? Okay, so there are, at the moment, there are 130, as that is according to DHA, the official statistics. But our own record, we have tried to verify that with the numbers that we have. We believe that there may be 132 people still in PNG, and the other, just 2 of them might not be included in the list or might have fallen through the cracks. Okay, and these 2 are, both of them are in the prison. So of this 130, 40 are non-refugees and 90 are refugees according to PNG law, under PNG law, or status under PNG law. Okay, if we add those ones that we believe have been missed out, that would bring the number of refugees up to 92 refugees. Okay, so of this total, 3 are in prison, 3 refugees are in prison, all convicted and serving their time. The first one is, I think, will be released towards the end of this year. And the one with the longer sentence will be out maybe towards the later part of 2022 or 23. Okay. Okay. There is one other person who was already, he was deported back to his home country. He was part of this Manus group. And after he was found not to be a refugee, he was deported back to his country of origin. But then he came back to Papua New Guinea, but through illegal route. He was compelled to come back to PNG because of his wife and children. He has already started a family by the time he was deported. And when he came back, he got arrested, and now he's in prison. We still include him as part of this group. Though I think DHA may not see him as part of these statistics, but to us, he's still part of it because initially he came through the same arrangement. He was released at the National Court last year in April. It was granted release. However, the PNG Immigration has appealed the decision of the National Court, and so the case went to the Supreme Court. In 2019, sorry, in December of last year, there was a Supreme Court bench hearing. However, to date, we are still waiting for the decision. And so he's part of the 4 people who are in prison. The 3 are convicted, and him, number 4. Okay. Another question. It looks like I'm gonna be following through the comments and answering those things. So I think it's easier and better this way because I get to give you the information you like or you want, right? Okay. So what sort of ID documents do the men have? Good question. So for those who are recognized refugees, um, they are being issued with the UN travel document, the United Nations travel document, the United Nations conventional travel document. Um, it's a document for them to use as a passport for them to travel outside of Papua New Guinea or even returning to their country. And for the non-refugees, unfortunately, they are not given any official document except for the determination letter, the letter from the Minister of Immigration notifying them of their status as not being refugees or not given refugee status under PNG law. But for the refugees or some of them who may not have the UN travel document, but who want to access services like banking and other services, and ID is required. Some of them have been getting identification letter or letter from the immigration supporting their identity in Papua New Guinea to facilitate with them accessing services like marriage certificate or accessing driver's license, opening a bank account, and others. Okay, another question: do the refugees form friendship with the PNG locals or keep to themselves? Look, this is about about 8 years. These people have been in Papua New Guinea, and I would say that many of them, a good number of them, have formed relationship with some local people, um, both with PNG men and also as a PNG women. But also a good number of them still keep to themselves. Um, I would say the group who are more privileged or allowed to move more freely have the opportunity to meet more people, and these are the refugees. The refugees tend to have this advantage of moving around more freely, and in that sense, having the opportunity to engage and create more relationship and rapport with the local communities. Um, the non-refugees are not so much, but we are also observing that because in Papua New Guinea we are not really the government is not really strict in confining those non-refugees in their location, their residences. They're still allowed to move around, to go to the store, to do their market shopping at the market. They still have formed some good relationship with those who are basically those who are really living in their neighborhoods, those who are close to them. So I would say generally yes, many of them have formed good relationship with the locals. Yes, of the non-refugees, a majority of the non-refugees are from Iran. And this is because of the fact that also the majority of the population are from Iran. All the other countries, other countries who have come under this arrangement, Iran has the biggest number of population. And it's unfortunately, many of them have been, though many have been accepted as refugees, there are still many of them who are not recognized and are forming the non-refugee cohort. In form of detention, at the moment, there are no non-refugees in detention. They are, however, in the designated accommodations. They're allowed to move around, as I explained. They can go to the store, go to the clinic. The government, the PNG immigration has not been very strict on enforcing the restrictions on their movement. So they can still move around quite more freely than those who are in hotels in Australia, locked in. And I think that's one of the reasons why those in hotel detention in Australia are expressing interest to come back to Papua New Guinea. It's because of this. All right, for the refugees, of course, they are permitted to work, as we would all agree. They're 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 free to go and look for job. It's their right to look for job. They can also start a business. Some have already ventured into SMEs, entrepreneurial activities. However, the challenge is that they still have, given the business environment in Papua New Guinea, and I would say much of it is because of the lack of awareness of financial institutions about the potential of such people to 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 get into business. There is not enough support put in place to support them with the ideas and business ideas and activities. But some have actually started doing small businesses, and a good number of them who have been supported to find employment. And these are only for refugees. Non-refugees, unfortunately, are not permitted or allowed to work or earn any form of employment, income generating employment. All right. Regarding my engagement with the refugees and asylum seekers. So when I say asylum seekers, I'm briefly referring to the non-refugees, those who have determined not to be refugees, but we respect that they are still asylum seekers. Um, so uh, I don't really have a sort of a fixed method or manner of visiting and engaging with them. I am more or less flexible. So it's entirely up to them to come to me or I go to them. In most cases, I am the one going to them to visit or to give them what um, I wanted to give them, like delivering their food vouchers. And for others, when they receive support from sponsors or personal sponsors from Australia that comes through our account, I would have to, withdraw the money or whatever the parcel, I get the parcel, and then I have to go and deliver it at their accommodation. I do communicate with them almost every day, not with every one of them, but I have everyday contact with the whole lot of them when they contact me. So I bring them, if they have a parcel coming from Australia to them or from anywhere, I bring it to them. So I visit them in most cases. But when I don't have the opportunity to visit, and if they have the transport to come, they are free to come and visit me. And I'm happy to say that most of the times they take the initiative to come and see me at either me or Father Jojo at our office at CBC. Um, Let me see. I mean, do you visit the greatest needs? Or greatest needs, asking about or talking about the greatest need, what they need most. I think it is only fair to say that they need most is their freedom. Um, I visited them over this time, and even we are referring to things like in their terms of welfare and how we can support them, but sometimes they have to tell me straight in the face that I will just want freedom. Give me my freedom and I will take care of myself. I don't need you to support me with everything and whatever I need now. If you can give me my freedom, I can take care of myself. So that is the greatest need. Is And in saying that, I think it means that we have to do more in advocating for them to be given that freedom. And though we can continue to support them in other ways, we can while they're still in here. But the greatest thing for us to do and the most proportionate or appropriate thing for us to do would be to do a more awareness and advocacy to the government to end this program, end this project as soon as possible, and give these men their freedom, whether it's in a third country or whether it's in Australia or whether it's in New Zealand or whether if it's safe for them to return to their home country. This thing has to come to an end, and these people must be allowed to live as freely as they wish and not being dictated with policy and laws. But to put it in more context, in terms of their welfare, they, they seem to have a varying degree of need depending on their ability to take care of themselves. For those who are suffering from medical conditions, chronic medical conditions, they would need, of course, a lot of support with counseling. A good number of them, have been here in this situation for 8 years. I sometimes find it difficult to talk to them because I am simply not in the same mental state as them, and it's even hard for me to try to talk with them when they're already stressed out, tired. So one of the greatest need is consistent or proper counseling assistance. Um, Unfortunately, this is not readily available at the private Paradise, not Paradise, sorry, Pacific International Hospital, PIH, which is contracted by DHA to provide medical support to this group. Most of the men have been complaining of not being given the right or appropriate treatment for their problem, their conditions. And even a good number of them have withdrawn from accessing PIH because they believe that nothing is happening, no improvement happened to them. Even they go to the hospital, they still come back and then the same issue persists or continue. So it's a lot to do with their mental than in any other, physical health. Their physical health has been affected because of their mental health. They have been complaining for being given medication, which they say it's only temporary. It's not treating the whole. It's only like patching. It's not addressing the real underlying problem, and so they continue to suffer. And it's compound to other issues. Some of them decided to go on a food and fluid strike, or some even because they're on a specified or specific medication, the food provided to them is not the right food that they need to take or to eat with given the medication they're under. So as I said, it's quite complex to really see what is the big need for everyone, because each one has their own unique problem and own unique issue every day and every week. But we have been trying to support, especially we see that there is a need for us to raise awareness or bring the issue to the attention of the responsible authorities. We have been sending numerous correspondence. I personally send emails and constantly sending emails to the PNG Migration, alerting them of the issues they're faced by these people in the accommodation, whether it's food or whether it's allowance, whether it's water, whether someone is mentally ill and doesn't want to go to the hospital, or or even taking them to accessing services like marriage certificate. I've been supporting some who have come asking us to help them to register their marriage in the civil registry. And these are some of the support that we give them that help them. So this is especially for the refugees who got married to local women. Oh, this is a good question. Oh, let me see this one. Is it correct that some asylum seekers and Manus have refused to be assessed as a protest to the situation, that is lack of freedom to come to Australia? This is I would say it's partly true. They at the time, there was a lot of confusion. Some of them has actually decided not to participate in the RSD process because as stated here, it's against their wish. They don't wish to be protest and settle in Papua New Guinea. They were aiming to go to Australia, and they felt that they have been forced to Papua New Guinea and forced to submit an application. And then so many of them have decided not to participate in the process. And part of the reason is also because they believe that if they participate in the PNG RSD process, they would not have the opportunity to even go to Australia or any other country. So there is this confusion and uncertainty about the future, and that's why some have decided not to participate in the RSD process. many things have not been very clear from the start, and things have slowly evolved and changed, and take different shapes as the years go by. So it's only right that these people, some of them have felt there is no guarantee, or there is no clear future for them to participate in a process that they felt that they've been forced or been forced onto them. How much of the daily lives of asylum seekers and refugees is being determined by the Australian Department of Home Affairs, and does our lobbying them have any impact? This is a very interesting and good question. Frankly, I would say almost all of their lives is being determined or influenced by the Australian government or Department of Home Affairs. They're simply here because of the Australian government, and they continue to be influenced. Their situations continue to be determined and influenced indirectly by the government of Australia through its contractors and also other partner stakeholders in Papua New Guinea. From their accommodation to the food they receive, to the hospital health services provided to them, all of these service providers are contracted through DHA, Department of Home Affairs, and that is how the DHA ever end in everything that is affecting the lives of those men who are still in Papua New Guinea. And whenever they bring up an issue about the quality or the lack of services provided to them by a particular service provider, the almost default answer to that is that this particular service provider would have to bring the issue up with Department of Home Affairs for them to get the feedback, whether it's a positive feedback to address the situation or it's a negative one. So this indicates that almost everything is still being dictated and determined by the Department of Home Affairs. And that means that a lot of lobbying, and from your group, a lot of lobbying, as well as other groups involved or have a stake or interest in this issue, have to do a lot of lobbying to influence the government about its views and approach towards this issue or towards this project. Do you know how many have been approved to go to the USA, and how many who do not have refugee status are likely to remain indefinitely in PNG? Okay. How many have been approved to go to the USA? As I have indicated earlier on, sometimes we don't have the luxury or the privilege to know all this official information. Much of this information is controlled by responsible authorities, including UNHCR, IOM, and the DHA and PNG immigration. But from our correspondences, we believe that there are about 10 or 11 who are approved and are ready to be flown to US sometimes during this month or next month. And there might be, let's say, there might be about 30 of the men here, 30 or less than 30, who are still in the US pathway. US pathway, in that sense, it means that some of them have been approved and waiting to go. Some have done the interviews and are waiting for their feedback. Either it's a approval from the United States government, or it's a decline or rejection. So all of these people all together in the US pathway, that the number would be just below 30, around 30. But about 10 are, I could say with some level of certainty that have been approved and ready to be flown to the States. It's just a matter of when the flight will happen. But again, this is not from official statistics, but this is the information that we have that we can share with you for your information. There are 40 non-refugees at the moment are still in Papua New Guinea, and many of these non-refugees have also applied for US resettlement. And of this, some will be going to the United States, and some might be going to other welcoming countries, maybe in the Europe. As in our past experiences, quite a good number, I would say, have gone to other countries in the Europe already, but less than 20 to various welcoming European countries. So for the non-refugees, we keep saying that at the end of everything, when all the opportunities are exhausted, we could end up with about 70 or 80 people who have no other options left for them. This includes this includes not they are unable to return home because it's not safe for them. Resettlement options may have been exhausted by then, and they would be expected to be left in Papua New Guinea, or they would be stranded in Papua New Guinea. So our estimation is maybe about 70 or 80 people. But we are hopeful, and we don't want to see that happening. We still want majority of these people to go to third countries, and it's up to the Australian government, and we still believe the Australian government has all the responsibility to make sure this happens for everyone, regardless of them being determined under PNG law. It's all started because of an Australian policy and Australian law. And in that sense, it's still, the Australia still has the responsibility and the duty of care towards each and every one of these people still in Papua New Guinea and also on Nauru Island. Of these people who will be stranded in Papua New Guinea when all other avenues are exhausted, among them are some very mentally broken people. They are beyond, they're damaged beyond repair, we would say. We are observing a few of them wandering about in the street since last year, and we do not know how much the responsible service providers and the responsible government authorities have done to alleviate or to address the situation of those people. As much as we know, those who have such mental or severe mental issues are not likely to make it onto resettlement in other countries, because obviously, and they won't want to take someone who is in that state of mind. It just gives them more burden, and there is little prospect for resettlement. That is not to say that it's a biased opinion, but this is looking at the practical side of things. So some countries will be more inclined to take someone who they see that's more viable, they're fit to go and establish their lives themselves and become independent of the government support as soon as possible. So we are concerned that these people who are damaged beyond repair mentally and others with chronic underlying medical conditions might be left in Papua New Guinea. And the scary thing is that the Papua New Guinea government would not have the adequate institutional support to take care of these people. At the worst, they might be just roaming around on the street until they meet their fate. Because at the moment, the Australian government is financing the medical support that they receive and the accommodation. Once the Australian government is out of this, those who are left in Papua New Guinea will be more or less left to their own device. And there is no guarantee how much the PNG government will continue to sustain support to these people. Regarding this case of Spicy, this is the guy I mentioned that is part of the 4 people who are in prison. So at this stage, he's still waiting for his decision from the Supreme Court. And he is one guy who we have everyday conversation or everyday exchanges. So I told him to call me this afternoon at 4 p.m. for me to get some updates from him about this situation. My last visit, Father and I made a visit to the prison just before Easter. We went up to Bomana prison to visit Spicy and the other refugee. Afghani refugee. So we brought some basic personal items, toiletries, and some food for them, and some clothing items. We have also sent some funds to Manus for the 2 refugees in the prison. We have sent it through to our contact on the ground, the Venice contract, the St. Vincent de Paul. We have a contact on the ground in Manus, so we engage with them to continue to pay visit to the prisoners, the 2 refugees in the prison, and we also send support to them. In December of last year, just before Christmas, we sent some funds through this Finnish contact, and then they took the 2 boys out for some Christmas shopping. And yeah, that's some of the things that we continue to do to support the men in the prison. We are very much aware that these people in the prison are more disadvantaged to some level compared to those who are outside, given the fact that they cannot, access other services. Those who are outside can come and see us and talk to us whenever they feel they need something. But those who are in prison are, are restricted. So we are always aware of that fact, and we try to make sure we help them as best as we can when they need our assistance. Oh, let me see. How many more questions? How many of the men you have described just walking around the streets near them? Are you aware of that? How many? Let's say at the moment, we would say about 3 of them who will fall in this category of being, broken beyond repair. And another 2, 3, 4 people are also in that very severe or advanced stage where they are going through some severe mental stress. And we are scared that they might also end up as those other people, the 3 or 2 people. One of them is already being approved to go to the US. He was supposed to go around 2019, 2020. However, because of his mental state of mind, he wasn't given the opportunity to go. And we wouldn't know the exact, what is the requirement of the mental well-being of someone to take a flight to the States, but he is someone that is being still around, though he is being approved to go to the States. And he is the one with a severe mental issue. And we are not sure whether he will still make it to the States when the program winds up, or will it be part of we would call the residual caseload, those who are left behind because all the programs, all the opportunities are expired or exhausted. And among these people also, there are elderly, I would say elderly men who might be in their 50s going 60s, who are, they're very limited capacity to subsist or to support themselves if they are left in Papua New Guinea. Employment, I wouldn't say employment is an avenue for them because of they're already in the later stage of the 50s going 60s. Many of them have very limited language capacity in sense of speaking English. So given all this combination of constraints, they would find it really hard to settle in Papua New Guinea, even though they are refugees. So it would be only wise and appropriate that these people are taken to a country where they can be supported well, where there are established institutions, established organizations who are dedicated and committed to supporting this kind of people. If they're left to stay in Papua New Guinea, the future is not really promising. Regarding the end date, this much of this information, has a lot of sort of secrecy. We are not readily accessing or having access to information about when this thing is going to finish or when the project is going to end. It's between the two governments, but we believe that it's going to be sometimes this year and 2022. So it's going to be between 2021 or in 2022 that this program is going to end. But saying that doesn't mean that all the people will be taken out before this program will end. It may just end with some people still remaining in Papua New Guinea. Okay, so that gives us all the more sort of agency to act for greater lobbying as we anticipate the ending of this program, the ending of this project. We have to do a lot of lobbying to ensure that government take responsible steps to end this properly and that no one is left behind or stranded. We are welcoming and we are supporting the call of the PNG government for those refugees who wish to settle in Papua New Guinea. We welcome that and we would work with them if they so wish to stay in Papua New Guinea. Okay, so that's only for people who want or people who are willingly expressing their interest to stay in Papua New Guinea, because if they have already established a family or if they have already established business activities and they want to stay in Papua New Guinea, we are welcoming that. And it's good that the government of Papua New Guinea is, opening up, giving this opportunity to them to stay in Papua New Guinea if they wish to stay. But those who don't want to stay in Papua New Guinea or who wish not to live in Papua New Guinea because of the various reasons, their own reasons, they must not be forced or be left stranded in Papua New Guinea at the end of the program or at the end of the project. So our lobbying focus for us to lobby is for the government of Australia to take